Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. Look, wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours, I know everything feels very sort of topsy-turvy and turbulent at the moment with everything that's going on in the Middle East. And look, there's probably not a lot we can do as small individual people except keep an eye on the news and stay as positive as we can, and hopefully that the whole debacle over there is going to stop soon and the world can get back to some sort of normality and no more bloodshed. I think that would be a lovely way to start the week. But, fingers crossed somebody will come to their senses and maybe we'll get an end to the Middle East crisis very quickly. Anyway, the Simply Tarot card of the week has got nothing to do with the war in the Middle East. It's got to do with the Seven of Cups, which is all that glitters is not gold. Now, it's an interesting sort of statement because sometimes I think we get so caught up on the shiny new things or the things that we want in our life that it's telling us that the practical things in life or the things that don't glitter are probably more important. So it's all that glitters is not gold. Look beyond the clouds, because sometimes we get so caught up in the fog of everything that's going on, or the clouds of what's going on in our life, that we forget to look beyond that and sort of know that there could be some better days around the corner, or there's a clearing, or there's some solutions and answers to the problems or the situations that we're facing. And at the moment, this card also talks about money improvements. Now, money improvements doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the lottery or the lotto or, have this sudden windfall of money. It's just saying things are slightly starting to improve. Now, that can be by your own good management of you starting to sort of budget better, take more control of your finances, look at ways to sort of save money. And at the moment, I think a lot of people around the world with the higher cost of living and fuel costs and things like that are starting to sort of look at ways that they can sort of trim the budget and make their money stretch a little bit further. And it's not an easy thing because a lot of people are living in a very stretched environment. And what else can you cut out? What else can you go without? What can you change? And sometimes I think just having somebody else look at the situation may be able to come up with some more creative solutions or something that you haven't thought of. And, this day and age, I think it's really important that we go back to basics, and that's what I always look at this card and I think, is it asking us to go back to basics? And let's just not look at everything that's glittery and shiny and in pretty packaging. Go back to basic things that are in brown paper or something that isn't flashy and shiny, and it may just sort of reduce the cost of some of the things that we're looking at. And is it a time to sort of go back to learn to cook and do things like that can cut the budget a little bit? Anyway, astrologically this week, the focus is mainly on Aries. So happy birthday to all the Aries people. And I have lots of Aries people in my circle of friends and clients and family and things like that. And it's a very exciting time of the year because it's the beginning of the astrological year. It's the first sign. It's the one that gets us motivated. It's Aries. It's me first. Can I tell you about me first and me first and me first? And I mean that in a very loving way, because if we didn't have Aries people in the world, none of us would get motivated to get out of bed. I think they drive us to do things. They drive us to sort of get up off the couch and get moving and sort of say, this is the beginning of something. I'll show you how to begin it. I'm not going to be there at the middle and the end, but I'll get you motivated. I'll get you moving. So it's a really important sign. It's a sign that really does sort of embody, I think, what astrology is about, looking to new horizons, being positive, getting up off the couch, making things happen, understanding yourself and understanding your limitations as well. We're not all wired the same. And I think that's the important part. There's many different facets that make up each and every one of us. And even in astrology, unless you're born at the same time in the same location, you are not the same. Not all Aries people are the same. And for those people that have been watching the show for many years, I've done many different segments on astrology over the years. But the one thing that I think keeps coming up that people don't quite understand, just because your sun sign is a particular energy does not mean that defines who you are completely. That is 1/10 of you. So if you're in Aries, that's 1/10 of you. Unless you have another 9 planets sitting in Aries, which would be pretty highly unlikely, then you've got other mixtures, you've got other planets sitting in other energies that make you the unique and special person that you are. And that's the important thing. And that's where astrology gets bad press, because people pick up something out of a newspaper or online and say, oh, well, only part of that suited me or the rest of it didn't, or I didn't relate to that in any way, because we can't just divide the population into 12 and get it precise for each and every one. So if you're going to look up little astrology, podcasts and things like that, or read something online, then make sure that you take out of it what is appropriate for you, what feels right to you, and the rest of it sort of discard and say, okay, that might be for the other person under my sign. It may not all relate to me. So we've got a real flavour, as I said, of Aries this week. We've got Neptune, the planet of illusion, delusion, and creativity, is conjunct or holding hands the sun in Aries. The sun in Aries is conjunct or holding hands Saturn, the planet of discipline, structure, and giving us the ability to sort of put a great solid platform underneath us. So this is affecting obviously Aries. It's Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and the opposite sign of Libra. It will wash over the remaining signs. So it's asking, particularly of the fire signs, to be creative. Look at innovative, creative, different solutions. Put your creative hat on. Look at possibilities that, there may not be all the answers there yet with Neptune, because Neptune can take us into a fog. But while we're in that fog, we're supposedly going to let our creative juices flow and wander and see and manifest and come up with some new ideas. We don't have to take them all on board, but we can let things be free thinking and sort of flow towards us. Now, the sun is the energy. This is our core. This is our center. So it's asking us to take this information back to our core, back to our center, and asking us, what can we do with this? How can we make this work for us the best possible way that we can? Now, with the sun here conjunct or holding hands Saturn, what Saturn's role here is to put a good solid foundation underneath all of these ideas, this creativity. They're taking the new ideas and taking it back to the core, allowing us to daydream or manifest things or look at things from a different angle in a very solid, practical sort of environment. It's sort of put a good solid foundation underneath us that we can allow ourselves this little bit of time to sort of be a bit creative, to sort of think outside the square, look at things from a different lens, and then sort of come back and say, how would that practically work in my life? Is this a good idea? Is this really true to my heart? Is this what I want to do? So the three of them working together is actually quite an interesting combination, because it's going to bring some fresh, new, innovative ideas, and that's a positive thing. For those that are looking for love, Venus is sitting in Aries at the moment too. So Venus is the planet of love and affection, and where we search for relationships or romance in our life, or people that are going to be special and significant. So with it being in Aries, yes, obviously it's predominantly affecting the fire signs, again, Leo, Sagittarius, and the opposite sign of Libra, but it's washing over the remaining 8 signs. So it's asking you, if you are seeking love, to get out and do something different. Don't sit on the couch and swipe your phone and sort of go to a dating app and hope you're going to meet Mr. or Mrs. Perfect there. Yes, maybe for some people that will happen, but Venus here is asking you to get out, do something that you haven't maybe done before. Be a bit of a leader, try something new, go to places, go and break out of your comfort zone. If you always go 10-pin bowling, then take up badminton or tennis or something different. Do something different. Don't keep putting your same feet in the same holes and expecting a different result. Make sure that you step out of your comfort zone, do something that's exciting and different and innovative. Join some groups, join in activities, get a life, get on with life. That's, I think, the message here. Now, interestingly enough, Chiron's been sitting in Aries for some time now. Chiron is not a planet. It's known as one of the Arabian parts, or the wounded healer is what we affectionately call it in astrology terms. It's a karmic situation. It looks at past lives. It looks at the energy that we bring in from past lives, but it's looking to heal us. It's asking us to sort of dig deep into our soul. What parts of us are wounded? What parts of us need healing? And it's really interesting because it does flow into our current lifestyle, into our current life, and it's asking us to take a good, long, hard look at our health. What is it that we can do differently? What have we been missing? What have we been looking at and sort of not really looking at, doing it because that's the way we've always done it. Instead of questioning and sort of saying, okay, what differences can I make? We all have some sort of health issue, no matter who we are, whether it's I'm getting tired or, my eyesight doesn't work as well, or you've got some sort of illness that is chronic or something that cannot be fixed, but can be managed with medication and changes in life and diet and lifestyle and things like that, and making sure that you're really listening to your body. And this is where Chiron comes in. He's asking you to take a fresh look at it. Don't just look at it and say, this is the only way. Do some research. And this is where the computer and Google's and all those sort of things are very helpful. I'm not saying they should replace your medical advice, definitely not. But what I'm saying is it can make you think maybe in a different way, to ask some different questions when you go back to your medical practitioner and say, hey, what about this? I've read about this treatment for my condition. Is that a possibility? Start to take some ownership of your own health and start to ask the questions. That's what Chiron is asking you to do. It's not asking you to be Dr. Google and, self-medicate self. It's asking you to arm yourself with information so that you can ask the right questions when you do go to your medical practitioner, and maybe there may be some modifications or some changes in solutions that might give you a better quality of life. That's all I'm suggesting there. It's not about becoming your own doctor, not in any circumstances. We need to go to the experts, the people that are trained in these areas. That's what they've spent the years training for, is to help us live our best lives. Now, the other influences have been a little bit more towards Pisces. We've got Mercury, the planet of communication, is sitting in Pisces at the moment. Now, why is this really significant? Because the Pisces energy, to me, has the power of the remaining other 11 planets. Yes, it gets a lot of bad press, and that can be something that is significant in your life. There may be a breakthrough there that you've been waiting for. It may be of a legal connotation or a health issue or just a family issue, or being able to resolve a long-standing family feud that's been going on for years, and all of a sudden everybody sort of laughs and says, I don't know why we're still carrying this on for the third generation. We're a different generation of people. Hopefully we're a little bit more understanding and open and accepting of people, and don't all have to be the same. So it's the perfect time to resolve issues, particularly with communication that needs to be involved, because we can bring in some creative, new, different ways of looking at this and come to the table in sort of a more calm manner than what we might have done if Mercury was in a fire sign, where it would be much more aggressive. So it's certainly more passive than what it was, and that's a good thing, because I think we need to sort of have some conversations around the world about many different topics in a calmer, sort of more adult sort of manner, instead of being like the bull in the china shop and trying to, run roughshod over everybody. Let's come in a different approach and sort of listen to what other people have got to say, because maybe there's answers in here. There's solutions here if we work together, if we consider not so much the other person as our enemy or somebody that we've got to get cranky with, but listen to what they've got to say and say, yeah, well, I can see that, or maybe that doesn't suit me. Let's sort of try it this way, or, jiggle the pieces around until they fit. And I think that we can get some real progress here, and progress on a personal level too, for issues that may have been going on for a long time are finally going to come to a head, and we need to sort of start moving things along. We need to start moving life along, because life moves so quickly these days. We don't want to miss out on the good things that can be coming by being bogged down or not ready to tackle the ones that aren't so good, the difficult ones, the things that we've been putting off. It's time now to bring those to the front and sort of say, these are going to get my utmost attention. Let's get them out of the road so we can get to the good stuff. We have Uranus still sitting in Taurus, and it's been there for a very long time now, and it's coming to nearing the end of its reign in Taurus. Now, when planets come to the beginning or the end of a situation where they're in a sign, this is when the energy really intensifies. And particularly when they're coming to an end, it's like the last lessons that need to be learned here are going to be short, sharp, and furious. They're going to be very intense. They're going to be lessons that you won't forget. Now, this is connected to the earth signs, which is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, the opposite sign of Scorpio. So if there's anything there that you have put off, that you're not dealing with, that you're ignoring, or sort of saying to yourself, I don't need to process that, I can't be bothered, or I'm too tired, or I'm too this, Uranus will come along and force you to do it. Now, I'm saying force you, and force you isn't always necessarily in a good way because you've had plenty of time to sort through these issues. And it's like, well, you haven't done that. Bang, I'm going to do it for you. And it's not always necessarily in a pleasant way. Uranus works a little bit like a bolt of lightning. It comes out of nowhere. It's intense as it hits the ground. And it's sort of got to shake things up because you've had plenty of time to make these choices or changes yourself. You've chosen not to do it. You've chosen to ignore it. So Uranus cannot leave this sign and not break things down or get rid of what they see as the debris or the rubbish or the restrictions in your life. Uranus will move those along, and sometimes it's not pleasant. And I quite often say to people, don't verbalize something that you don't want. Don't say, I hate my job, I hate my job, because Uranus could be listening, no matter what your star sign is, and says, okay, they don't want the job, I'll take it away from them. And that's not what you meant. You were just having not a very good day. So be very careful, no matter what your star sign is, of what you verbalize, particularly in these next couple of months, because it could be taken by Uranus as gospel that this is what you want to achieve, or this is what you want removed out of your life, and Uranus will just come in and make it happen. And it's not always about negative things. It can be about positive things too. So, be very aware of that. Uranus can create openings here for things that you thought were virtually impossible, or you had no chance of landing that job because you haven't got all the qualifications. But hey, I put in the application or the CV anyway. And, for some reason or other, you've stood out and they've been prepared to train you or pay for training or something like that because you were the perfect candidate for the role. So, don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as Uranus can bring in some positive things as well. So that's where we're going to leave the astrology for this week. We're going to talk with Lisa in Howland, New Jersey. Are you there, Lisa?
Hi, good afternoon, Amanda.
Hi, Lisa. How can I help you? Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
I do. I've been going through a few issues with my health. Do you
Right.
see anything if everything's going to be turning around for me?
Okay, Lisa. First thing I want to say to you is different laws, different states, different countries govern the fact that we can't discuss health because we're not doctors, but I can look at it on an energetic level. And what they're sort of
Okay.
showing me is on an energetic level, we're almost at the point where we're going to start to see things turn the corner. We've got a little tiny bit more to go. So has there also been a lot of endings and change and transformation around you in this last 18 months, as well as what's been going on with your health? Has there been changes in your life as well?
I'm not working, so yes, that's been over a year.
Yeah, okay, that's a major change, isn't it? I mean, that's something that, you probably weren't anticipating of not being working. So has that been caused by your health not being where it could be?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I feel you will be going back to work. I don't know that you'll be able to go back to work in the capacity that you were previously, but I'm sort of seeing over the next couple of months, your health is going to start to sort of turn around where you're getting more energy. You're starting to feel a little bit more like your old self. But yes, you're going to have to learn what your limitations are. That, like if you have a really high energy day to day, then pace yourself for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it takes. Don't sort of get cranky with yourself that I really felt terrific today and tomorrow I feel like I've been run over by a bus again. Just take that the good days are coming, and we've got to, work with that, but don't go overboard with it. Just because you're feeling full of beans doesn't mean that we've got to do everything in one day, pace the energy. But I am seeing the opportunity to go back to work, but I felt it was going to be sort of remote work to begin with, something that you could do from home, something that you could get up and take a break or, have a coffee or something like that and then come back to it, that you're not sort of necessarily having somebody watch over your shoulder. Would that fit with the type of work that you used to do, that you could do something remotely?
But well, I was working remotely. It was just too much.
Right.
And then I'm not sure if I should be moving or not. Do you say anything about moving?
Um, It's a possibility. They keep showing me a question mark around that. What they were showing me, and I didn't want to sound negative, was by August, everything seems to be very different. And I had to be very careful to see whether or not that was when you were going to be working remotely. And when I'm saying working remotely, I'm only talking about a day or two a week to begin with. I'm not talking about a full-time role. I'm talking about
Okay.
something that's sort of, so many hours a week. And you can spread it out over 6 days if you want to, as long as the actual workload is done for the week. They don't care whether you do it all in one day or over 6 days. That's your choice. It's just got to be in by Monday morning, say. And this is the question mark then at whether or not do you stay where you're living or is it time to move. My feeling that they're showing me is that by August you have the answers to this. I'm not sure that you necessarily need to move. I think you're looking at maybe moving, would that make my health better? And I'm not sure that that's necessarily the answer to yes to the question. If you do decide to move, it has to be because this is what you want to do, not because you feel pressured to do it or that you feel that it might improve your health or something like that. It has to be something that your soul wants to do, that you heart and soul want to do, not just because you think that that might be an answer to something. I'm not convinced you're going to move. If you are, it's certainly, I don't feel it's going to be this year. I want to see you sort of allow your energy to build this year as you start to get better, and then we can make some more informed decisions. So I hope that's helped you, Lisa.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We're going to move on to Tawny now in Sydney in New South Wales in Australia. How are you, Tawny?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you, sweetie. Do you have a question I can answer for you?
I just wanted to know, what was coming up with me, sort of within the next 3 months, if anything's looking positive at all. It's been a bit.
Okay. It's usually easier for me because we've got such a short space of time on the show that if you have a question and not just generally, I want to know what's coming up in 3 months, it's quicker for me to tune in and give you an answer. So is there a specific area of your life in the next 3 months that it is of concern or something that you want me to hone in on?
With my work.
Right. Okay. Right. Really, really interesting because what they're showing me here with your work is sort of like 1 step forwards, 2 step backwards. I'm not sure that you're in the right job. I sort of feel as if you keep questioning whether or not this is going to improve, this is going to be what you expected it to be or what you wanted it to be. Have you been questioning the role since, sort of late last year?
Well, I've just started a new role about 3-4 weeks ago. And
oh, okay,
yeah,
okay. So you just made
hesitating.
Mm-hmm. Well, it always takes a little bit of time, doesn't it, to sort of bed into a role when you've moved into the role. So that's good that you've changed your job because that was going to be the next thing I was going to suggest, that sort of, towards the end of last year, you were feeling quite uncomfortable with where you were and there was going to be a change. Well, you've made that change. Look, I think this new role that you've stepped into, I think give it a little bit more time, but I actually think it's going to start to fit you like a glove. It's interesting because people are friendly, but they're not necessarily helpful, is what I'm getting. Yes, they would help you if you asked. Yes, they're friendly and they respect you, but they don't go out of their way to make you feel super comfortable. But I think that's just because everybody's busy and focused on what they're doing. I wouldn't take that too personally. I actually think this role will grow with you, and I'm looking towards the end of this year where they're going to be sort of suggesting something else to you, that there's another position coming up with an opening for the early part of 2027. If you're interested and this is where you'd like to gravitate to, then there's going to need to be some further training or some extra study that goes along with this role that they would be prepared to pay for and allow you to sort of take, time out of your busy work day to go and attend. So that's something, to me, that sort of says that you're doing well in the role. Otherwise, they wouldn't be looking to promote you and offer you something else if they didn't feel that you didn't fit or, weren't performing well or whatever. So that's good. I think part of the problem is that you lack a little bit of confidence in yourself. You take some bold steps, you take the choices, you make the decisions, and then all of a sudden you panic and you think, oh, have I done the right thing? Have I not? And you have done the right thing. You've just got to give yourself time for this to sort of settle down a little bit. Was there also some talk about maybe a change of residence coming up as well?
Yeah, we were talking about it.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure that the decision will be made in the next 3 months, but I can see a couple of really serious decisions or discussions around that. And then it's sort of like we only get to a certain point that we don't make a final decision. It's like we've got to wait for something else to come in, or we're waiting to see, what the prices of houses are or whatever it is. It's sort of like we get to a point and then we stop. I do feel before the end of this year that there will be a final decision made to make a change, to move. And to me, it's the right thing to do. But I don't think it's the right thing just yet. It's sort of like you collectively need to be ready to do this, and I don't feel you're ready to do that yet. But it's interesting because you seem to be personally going through a lot of transitions. There's going to be times there where you're feeling super confident, and then there's going to be other times where you're feeling like, my goodness, everything seems to feel very overwhelming. I feel like I'm out of my depth. And then tomorrow you wake up and you're back to feeling positive again. So just work with those energies. Don't look at them as necessarily a direct message from spirit saying you're on the wrong path or anything. It's just that you're starting to open yourself up more. You're starting to listen to your own inner voice more, your own spiritual guidance or your own psychic ability. And to do this, they've got to take you to sort of extremes to get you to sort of understand the energies or the messages that they're giving you. And they're sort of very amplified and over the top. And it's sort of like, once you acknowledge it and just work with it, it will sort of calm down. It will just become sort of more automatic. Was there a lot of change in 2025 that, things that were unpredictable that you sort of felt at times life was out of control?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that's going to start to slowly settle down now. Like you're going to sort of, over the next couple of months, particularly up between now and June, you're going to sort of feel as if you're back in the driver's seat again, and that's a good thing. I want to say to you, you haven't done anything wrong. If anything, you've really handled what's been thrown at you really, really well, and probably ahead of your own personal timeline of where you should be in your life. So, just keep working with the energy, keep yourself motivated. Do what feels right. If it feels wrong, then stop and ask yourself, why is this feeling wrong? All of a sudden, I don't feel comfortable with this. Is there a reason? Is there a trigger? You don't necessarily have to make a decision about it that day, but write it down, and then you'll understand that, okay, this is sort of part of the transition that I'm going through. So I hope that's helped you, Tawny, but we've come to the end of the show, sweetie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. It's really interesting. Tawny's, one of many people around the world that's going through massive changes at the moment. And, sometimes we sort of question whether or not, am I being silly? Am I overreacting to something? My answer is no, we never overreact. If something is really that intense that it's driving you nuts, then it's something that you've got to look at. It's the universe's way, or the spirit guides, whatever you believe in, trying to show you that you need to be aware of this. Not necessarily is it always the time to act, but it's the time to be aware of it and just sort of sit back and sort of watch it like it's a movie and sort of see what the next changes are. So this week I want to leave you with a song that's probably pretty ancient by now, but by one of the most amazing women that ever walked the earth. And, she had such an amazing energy, and she was so powerful, and she had, she made people sort of sit up and take notice. And I think she did a lot for the women's movement around the world, that, women can do anything. Women can achieve things if they really put their mind to it. And it's actually her birthday today, or would be if she was still alive, the one and only Aretha Franklin. And I think everybody knows this song, and it's called Respect. And I think we should all sort of gravitate towards understanding and working with the words in that song, and maybe show a little bit more respect for the people that are around us and the people that are important to us. I think, good manners goes a long way, and I think we could bring a little bit more of that back with a little bit of respect. So happy heavenly birthday to Aretha Franklin. Until next week, respect everybody in your orbit, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.